Welcome. Hey, welcome to the Zod Drea podcast. I'm Zod.
I'm Drea.
And of course, what has happened is this is now the 100th episode of the Zod Drea podcast.
You stuck around with us for this long. Thank you.
So can you believe it? We've actually had 100 episodes now where we have talked about some of the most progressive things in Arizona. And it keeps on going. The ball keeps on rolling, and we're glad that you're a part of it.
And not only just some of the progressive movements that have gone on in Arizona, but you got to have a glimpse of our lives together.
Yeah, pretty much, because we talk about relationships, and everything that we've discussed on this podcast has actually been because of conversations that we've had. So none of this stuff is just completely just made up or fabricated, like, oh God, what are we going to talk about this week? We better hurry up and do something. No, this is actually thoughts that we've had, and we want to share them with you and get your opinion on them.
So thank you for letting us share our relationship with you and for giving us feedback too on what you think about what we share and everything that we've videoed and everything, all the audio. So thank you so much.
And talk about that in the video and audio. Can you believe it? We're going to show you a clip on what was pretty much our first interview podcast.
Right.
And it was right after Donald Trump had won. And the question, I think, was what would be the change that you would make as president if you were voted in? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know, think about this.
It seems like such a world away.
And it was on a first Friday. And we'll talk about the first day that was in a second. All right, cool. But in a second, just check out this clip.
If I was president, I would have probably changed the way like the law works here. Like, you know, when I mean like the laws, I mean like if you notice lately that there's been a lot of like prejudice towards some people and towards some others. Like I've noticed that recently, like, oh look, a rapist, they get like 5 years in jail, while somebody who shot like a warning shot at somebody because they were being attacked, they get 20 years in jail. Or a kid who just like, you know, they're being kids. Of course, kids are gonna be like horny people. They're gonna like talk to like their girlfriends, send pictures and all that, and they're like, oh look, you have pictures of.
I mean,
wow. I can't believe it was that long ago.
It was that long ago. We had such a good time interviewing the people that we did that day because it was a first Friday.
Right.
It was a first Friday and it got dark. We weren't sure exactly what our setup was going to be. We just had our camera, our microphone, and we were just like, hey, you know what? Let's try to see who we can interview about this question, considering people were so heartfelt, especially here in Arizona with the progressive movement, about the Donald Trump winning. So we had the Native American. You remember the?
Oh my gosh, that's right. They're playing the drums like down the street because we found this one corner sidewalk where there was only the only good light.
It was the only
there.
good light because the light was really dark. You know, our equipment was just a camera light. We didn't have I don't think we had our light set up that we were able to place on. So we've improved a lot of the things that we've had. So, I mean, if you see this place right now, this is just a room right here in the Zod Drea studios.
We're getting a tan from all these lights in here.
So, you know, we're keeping you in mind. But it's one of those things where the progressive movements that we discuss and that we want to interview, they become like firestorms and these big lightning rods to some of the discussions that we've had. And to see some of the Native American people that were really affected, and at the time it was because of the pipeline.
That's right. Wow.
Yes, it was because of that.
So many things
over in the
have happened
Dakotas,
since then.
yeah. So much has happened then, and you know, we're glad to have brought that to you, and also to have shared some of the things that people had responded with.
Correct, and hopefully those people still are empowered and taking on the causes that still were important to them too.
Yeah, because that was during Standing Rock.
Right.
But when did we start our podcast?
July 25th, 2016, our first audio recorded podcast. Wow, that's
It's so
crazy.
You know, and since then we've had a whole bunch of interviews, such as people from the Women's March. So the Women's March was obviously a big movement, and we're going to discuss the one that we had this year in 2018. So check out a clip of that and who we got. But haven't made that leap.
I am encouraging every woman. I'm encouraging everyone to start stepping up and start volunteering with campaigns. That is how I got my start on the ground, volunteering my time. I also encourage everyone to sign up for the Request to Speak system, which is located in the House and in the Senate, in order to be able to report or make your comment heard remotely. Unfortunately, you have to come down to the actual kiosk to sign up. And sometimes if you have free time, come down to the state capitol. You know, sit in these committees.
Wow, I don't know about you, but one of the biggest takeaways I had from the Women's March was seeing how many people showed up.
Because there were not just a lot of women there, but even at the first one, not just women, but also men and progressives. A lot more people had come for the second one, I think, in a sense that they wanted to do something about it. And that's why that one was so much more special, because it was more about a movement to get involved as opposed to oppose the president. And that's what I think was really bringing a lot of people to us. And, we got to see a lot of things. And of course, in case you haven't seen, Liz Dowenhauer and what was her name? Tani Gonzalez. They were actually accosted us at this rally. And I have that on tape somewhere, but they're not too much worth it. But as you know, they went and accosted a whole bunch of Muslims, including Vidra Aboud, and they went to the ICC over in Tempe, got in a bunch of trouble, and now they've been arrested. But we have it there that they were actually sitting there being protected by the Patriot AZ movement, and hey, we kept on moving. It wasn't just
a one-time deal, guys.
It wasn't a one-time deal. So this was at that same Women's March that we interviewed these people. So make sure you check out your surroundings and all the people that you see, because you never know when you're going to wind up getting a story. See, we thought we were only going to be discussing the people at the Women's March, but we got bombarded with some of the pro-Trump people who don't necessarily stand for anything except for against everything else that the progressive movement stand for.
I like that, stand against everything.
Yeah, they don't stand for anything, but, that's them. But talk about standing for something, the governorship. Doug Ducey hasn't been doing a great job here in Arizona, and we got to interview somebody who was running in the game.
David Garcia is a Democrat, and he is running for that seat, and there's so much momentum behind him, and we're just really glad that he took some time out of his busy schedule to talk with us.
Yeah, so check this clip out, see what David had to say.
We've forgotten how absolutely magical education is. We have forgotten that it's the interest of every young child. The first things we're going to do is start investing back in not only our public school students, but our public school teachers, because the reality is, I think they're all ready to work hard, but they're not feeling supported right now. And, to push somebody hard without support, I just think simply isn't fair. It's amazing. If you look at a young person, if you push them and help them get there, they can do just phenomenal things.
Go, David! We are backing you up.
Yeah, David's a really good guy. He's been in our corner since that interview. This guy has always remembered us, always talked to us, always bombards me for some things. This guy. So we're going to probably wind up having dinner soon just to check him out. And if you haven't seen him already, make sure you check out his website. I think it's dg4az.com. David's a really good friend of ours and lives in our district, just a really popular man, and we're really pushing forward. I know we don't necessarily, what we do. We slant.
Look, we like people.
We
okay?
like
There's
people. There's
like.
people we like. And yes, we do slant. We don't slant the news. We tell you what it is because we interview people for what it is, their opinion is. But we do like the progressive people and the movements that we like to promote. So, we're the type that, progression, you move forward. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that Arizona moves forward. And that's what we do.
And if you align with what is important to us, the issues that we think matter, then we're going to support you in that.
Exactly. So where that comes in, and there's a couple other guys that we also support. We don't necessarily have to push them right now because they weren't interviewed, but we did interview Marcus Farrell.
Oh, that's right.
We did interview Marcus Farrell, who's running for now Legislative District 24. He's running for one of the two seats. And since we had shot the original video, which was actually the movement for, I think it was the Unity one. And we had gotten to interview him. So at some point we'll interview him for his position here. But for a little bit of fun and a little bit of change up, what we did also every year is go to the Go Topless movement. So the Go Topless movement is also the Free the Nipple movement, and we got to interview a few people. So we did it this past year, but we also did it a couple years ago. So check out what they had to say.
I think people should be educated enough to make their own opinion, regardless of what's going on around the world. Like, why don't people stand up for what they think is right? Period. I'm tired of people having things taught to them and then shoved opinions in their faces. It's not right. Like, everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their right, and that's what I think. I'm tired of people shoving and comparing the United States to other countries because we're the United States. We're not other countries. Like, it's annoying. But I also think that we have the opportunity to do things like that. It's okay.
All right, I'm just making sure the nipple's free.
Oh, they're all
Just
free.
making sure they're all free.
I have to admit, that was the first event that I went with you that we did the whole podcast and video in like this active environment where there were, we were on a light rail. We were marching in the middle of the streets.
Yeah.
And it was uncomfortable for me, I'm going to admit, because I wanted to be very protective of who we were interviewing, and there was just some jerks that were coming around harassing the men and women and children that were part of that demonstration. And it was just really confusing for me a little bit, because I'm like, I wanted to do so many things, but yet we had to stick to what we were documenting, which was that experience that they were having there. So it was a lot to take in, and
I mean, one guy wanted to try to start a fight with me.
It was, oh my God, that was so crazy.
You remember? He wanted to try to start a fight with me because I was sticking up for the women, and he just couldn't take a bunch of women, including some cancer, some women who had cancer and had their breasts removed. He just couldn't take.
It was too
much. Too much breast.
Oh, and remember that mother and her, and
the mother and the son.
She was screaming that it was so
traumatic.
Why you this is disgusting. You shouldn't be doing this in front of my kid. And look, you've traumatized my kid. But yet she was yelling so much. That was traumatizing.
That was traumatizing the kid.
It was nuts.
It was wild. So the things that you see while we're doing these podcasts is even wilder than what you get to see. So we see some of the behind the scenes action, and it can get really harrowing. I mean, really harrowing.
Yeah, that was not fun.
But
it was fun. But some parts were not so fun.
Yeah, some fun. Yeah. You got to take the good with the bad. And some of the good with the bad is racism, sexism, and bigotry, who we got to discuss with Peter and Maddie. So Peter Juarez, Maddie Steinkamp came in to discuss with us about their movie. And check out what they had to say.
Every single time I say, they're like, what's the name of your film? Oh, my racist, sexist, oh, it's not about Trump. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, a disclaimer, really fast. But you want to answer that one?
When Pete and I first met, we wanted to create a short film that was just talking about these discrimination statements. Really go out there and show people, this stuff isn't, we should not be saying these things anymore. Like the fact that our children are being taught that this is okay to say, and these allowances have now turned into crimes. These crimes have turned into murders.
We are rooting for these guys, man. They created something so powerful, and it is now at the Phoenix.
It's at the Phoenix International Film Festival, but also I think it was the Atlanta International Film Festival that this film has been accepted into. So it's called You Racist, Sexist, Bigot, and it's a documentary with a lot of people pretty much here in Arizona. I mean, it's all in Arizona. A lot of friends of Peter Juarez and Maddie Steinkamp behind the camera, where if you look at the podcast that we had with them, which is very intriguing, they discuss so much of how it changed them.
Right.
And I thought that's what was really cool, like shooting a movie and how it's changed them, just much like how this has changed us.
Completely. Like you do not remain the same after that kind of experience. And what's great about them is they embraced it, and they're taking this on into really empowering their community and the rest of the United States for this conversation. Yeah,
and we're really glad that they're part of the 100th episode, because it's something that's really important. It's not just important to us, it should be important to anybody else who claims that they're progressive. Those who want to go back and make America great again, this movie would probably offend them, because they don't want to see an America great with all of these different personalities, nationalities, colors, creeds, races, genders, and it's something that Maddie and Peter had really brought to the forefront. And in case you guys are even wondering what You Racist, Sexist, Bigot is, check this out, because we're going to take a break, and during this 1 minute break, we want you to make sure that you see their trailer.
All you need is love. 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 You're my sister. You're my
Okay, so let's let's kind of orient ourselves here.
All right.
First and foremost, cannabis is always medicinal, if you will. That is, if you consume cannabis, it's going to have a medicinal therapeutic effect on your body in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's relaxing you a little bit more, whether that's giving you a sense of relief so that you could have sleep that night. No matter what your intention is when you consume cannabis, it's always going to be medicinal in some sense, if you will.
So, if you don't know who that was our friend Sonia Martinez.
She is amazing. She does so much work here in the community, and she's a lawyer, she's a mother, she's just everything, and we just adore her.
And of course, as you can see, she is a proponent of marijuana laws. So as an attorney, she knows a lot about this stuff. She's very informative, and it became one of our first larger viewed videos because people were really interested in what she had to say. Also, she had a lot of critics.
Right. It was important policy that was being addressed and being put into a bill in the legislature, and it didn't pass. But what we just found out just recently is that one of the big companies that was opposing this bill they gave like $500,000, is now bankrupt because they were guilty of fraud and all this stuff. So it was a big mess, but Sonia still stays true and still stays strong for who she is.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, make sure you go to our YouTube video because this one isn't on our Facebook one. So go to YouTube and you'll be able to see what Sonia has to say about the marijuana laws. Also, you can also check her out on our website, www.zoddandrea.com, where we have all of our videos listed as well as all of the guest interview ones. So you don't even have to scroll around and look for it. We actually have it.
Make it very convenient for them.
Yeah, we make it really convenient.
Actually, you do. I don't.
Yeah. I gotta do all the damn work. I swear it's not easy being Zod. It's not easy being Zod. It's not easy being a black woman in America. Even though they are one of the largest voting blocs that are putting progressive movements forward, they still have to fight for stuff. So we got to interview for the March for Black Women, where we attended, and we got to interview some of the women there who were just standing up for certain things, mostly about what they have to. Just check it out.
Watch it.
Just watch it.
My biggest advice is to speak up. Don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer in anger. Seek help from somebody. That somebody could be your church. That somebody could be your best friend. Sometimes that somebody is not in our family, and that's okay. There are plenty of medical health professionals out there willing to listen as long as you reach out and say that you need the help. We're all human, and sometimes we have rough patches. And just because we have a rough patch does not mean we're less than. Just because we have a rough patch does not mean we're stupid or we're lazy.
I wish the rest of the United States could come and see all the movement and the awesome black women that are here in Arizona making things happen every day, are out in the community and also still supporting their family to make a difference. So I wish everyone would just come out here and visit.
Shout out to all the black women out here who are making a difference, because the struggle has been going on forever and you're still fighting. You're one of the people that actually should be taking a rest right now. You should be taken care of by everybody else. Our allies, everybody should be taking care of you. And instead you're on the forefront, and you're the ones, thank God, who stopped people in Virginia, people in Alabama. You're the ones who are voting bloc, and you're the largest voting bloc who voted against Donald Trump. So we thank you for everything that you've been doing, and thank God for them. So another thing we have is, like, these are our women. I love these two. If you haven't checked them out, they have been fighting so hard from the door for school voucher programs, and we just love them. Dawn Penance Thacker and Beth Lewis of SOS, which is Save Our Schools Arizona.
Now these two women, they weren't really activists, like
no.
And when this whole policy came into play, and they just activated just hundreds and hundreds of thousands really, of teachers and people across the state to raise their voice. And
you don't just get 111 or 110 whatever thousand signatures in order to overturn a bill that people like Debbie Lesko are trying to pass because they're on the Betsy DeVos plan. Those people who would rather take from the poor, take from the poor, give to the rich. But check out what they had to say in this interview that we had the pleasure of doing.
our public school teachers and public schools are doing such a good job of hiding the hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, good point.
That people don't realize that they're starving. They're doing such a good job of making schools seem pretty good and fine and fun, and that they don't realize that we are actually in crisis,
right,
in terms of how much we are supporting and investing in this field and in these kids and in these people, and therefore in our state. I was thinking on the drive over.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Dawn and Beth are some forces to be reckoned with. We have had them on our couch here, having a good conversation, because that's what we do. We have our interview, and as you can see from the clip, they are no joke. But we've also been able to interview them and hang out with them in other places, such as, they've had the behind the Capitol. They had the no pay for no peanuts, because the teachers here are paid jack. And we've also had them at the Teachers March. You remember the march, the Education March?
Which pretty much marked a year since the SOS movement started. And it just showed that progression and all this movement that has happened. So thank you, ladies, for always supporting us. And we are at your beck and call. You need us anytime, we are there.
Yeah, so, and also don't forget about when Debbie Lesko's people were, and the DeVos people were trying to jack up Dawn. Dawn knows her stuff, so it's ridiculous. So, it's ridiculous to even try to go up against her when it comes to education, but they tried to use some things on her against her, and I think it was in an interview with some other...
Channel 12 was one of the local interviews here.
And she knew that they had seen our podcast to try to use that as fuel against her, and it didn't work. Sorry, people. But it's cool to know that the DeVos people were kind of shook about our interview. So thank you, Dawn and Beth, for doing that. Talk about education. We had my man Martin Perez, who is a vice principal, to talk about the school to prison pipeline.
Martin is so well versed on this issue, and he's very passionate about it because he cares about the kids here in Arizona, which he knows they're doing this beta test to test out all these different policies, and he's just not having it.
Yeah, so he's the vice principal, but not just here, but he was also an educator over in California.
That's right.
So let's see what he has to say about the school to prison pipeline.
And when I say nationally is with teacher preparation programs, it's very hard because it all stems from classroom management. Oftentimes these situations alter from that teachers are not as fully prepared to manage a class, especially in low-income communities, Title I schools, that with our students, they come in with so much baggage. So I think going back to my teaching days and now as an administrator, it really truly starts with authentic relationships.
Were we lying when we said Martin knew his stuff? He knows his stuff.
Yeah, so we're glad that he got to check us out, and he was very passionate and very enthusiastic about coming on the show. So that's what our podcast is about. It's about not just teaching, people who are watching or listening to us, but it's also educating ourselves. These are discussions that we've had. It's like, hey, you know what? What about what Martin was talking about? He's a guy who knows a lot about education. So we talked about the school to prison pipeline, just like some of the other teachers that we've had, such as David Garcia, who is also an educator, and such as Dawn Penance Thacker and Beth Lewis, who are also educators. So we really love to push that agenda that a better educated Arizona is better educated for everybody.
Just a better Arizona.
It's a much better benefit. So, we're glad to be able to catch those discussions, and we hope to have a lot more with teachers. So if you're a teacher, don't hesitate to give us a contact. But one of the things that we did that was wild, you talked about what happened to us.
Oh my gosh, the protest, right?
Like looking all over the place.
I was like, wait a second. I'm like, there were so many things. You mean the pepper spray, the tear gas? It was nuts. It was just absolutely nuts. But we got to capture some amazing people who, the majority of the whole demonstration was very peaceful. And we got to really talk to so many people that were just so passionate to making sure that Arizona was seen in the best light possible. And then you also got to talk to the, supportive view, right, of who was in town, right?
Yeah, so Donald Trump had come into town, and, we just wound up interviewing some of the great people, such as Christopher Johns, Rosita Johns, Jackie Wallace, who we became friends with.
We
so
did.
we're actually true friends with them. So it's really cool So we can do that. But we also talked to some of the people that were opposite of it, those who were actually for Trump. And we don't exactly know what their whole position was, but it was interesting to try to capture it. Check this out.
Latinos, blacks, I'm an Asian from Pakistan. The hatred of whites that exists, the misogyny that our culture that exists.
Just relax, just keep recording. Here's the problem. Well, it's not a problem. There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's either rape and rape. Racism, racism. There's no reverse rape.
So let me define what race. So that's
and understand what racism actually is too.
Okay, so you're going to give me the institutional definition of racism?
All right, look.
And see, you get all kinds of different sides from this protest, and it's one of those things where it was just wild. One person throws a bottle, and suddenly everybody's getting flash grenaded, getting tear gassed, and pepper sprayed, and
I was
rubber
out.
bullets.
I was
Yeah,
out.
she was out. Me, I was like, yo, I got my camera, so I gotta go and check all this out.
Not having it
You
today. No.
And it made for some really good photos. One of them, which I am selling on shop.redfo.com, which people have bought.
Right.
So if you see the peace symbol, that's me. Thank you, Trump.
I never thought you would say thank you.
Thanks, Trump. Usually it's sarcastic. Thanks, Trump. Yeah, thanks.
So what's the next one that we're done talking about?
So one of the fun things that we get to do on this journey as a couple, but also as podcasters, is we get to record some of the crazy trips and things that we've done. So one of the things we did was we had a road trip. And the road trip led us to all kinds of places because our original plan was to go all the way up to Vancouver, Canada, which is a place I want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Which I got to tell you, my friend Lewis actually went to and took pictures of, and I'm like, geez, man. Anyway,
Jealous.
we went from here to San Diego. In San Diego, that's when I realized I forgot my luggage. We went from San Diego to LA, and then we saw my man Dan Jacobson, but of course somebody rear-ended us.
Right. Of course that happened.
Then from there, we went and took that long road, that long boring road, but we went all the way up to San Jose.
You forgot about what happened in Compton.
Oh, Compton was, no, we'll tell him.
Oh, so just walking along trying to go find a store that sold the oils that you like.
Yeah.
Came across a guy that took some bad stuff. I don't know what he took.
I think it was PCP.
I don't know what
Molly
it was.
something, but we had the cameras rolling and we just had to know what was going on. It was our trip. We wanted to see what we can do while we're on it. So, do me a favor and just check this out if you haven't seen it already.
Grandma tripping. Please. Grandma tripping. Please. I don't even know what the question was. Oh, it wasn't no question. It wasn't nothing.
You're okay, bro. Bro, remember.
Stop, stop.
You gotta relax, okay? Turn around. We're not here to help you.
No, he's just.
My life, nigga. My life.
No, bro. No. So this was what we ran into on that trip. But, we got to see Katie Bessiere. Shout out to Katie Bessiere. Dan Jacobson, got to see friends of mine. And we also went to Keene, California. So we took a little shortcut over there and we got to see the Cesar Chavez Foundation, which was awesome.
Random.
Just
we
random.
were just while we were taking the trip north, we just kind of Googled and see what was around, and we got to really experience this place. Before it was going to shut down. It was only like an hour left before it was going to shut down. So we're
Closed, not shut down.
Oh
It was
yeah, I'm
just gonna
sorry.
close.
Don't get my language all mixed up. But it was such a great opportunity to see, and it was moving to me because this was a hero of mine, and I got to see this place that was totally dedicated.
And we
to
got
him
to
and
go
his
to, after that, we went to Las Vegas, stayed over the night. Then we took a trip over to Grand Canyon, which this one I hadn't seen before.
So
and then we went down to Flagstaff and then came back home. It's all on YouTube, so check that out because it was amazing. And we're going to try to do it again maybe later on this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, people, this was it. This is the 100th episode.
Thank you for coming along and sharing this journey with us.
Yeah, because we're going to have a lot more, and we're going to make sure that we push because we have another 100 episodes to, bring to you.
Mm-hmm.
The progressive movement's never going to die. It doesn't matter who's in office. You got to keep pushing forward. You're not trying to make something great again. You're trying to make it continuously be great. So make sure you check us out on ZodAndrea.com, at ZodAndrea on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anything you can think of at Zod and Drea. I mean, we're on Twitch, and we don't even know how to use it. So
I don't even know. And I just want to give a shout out then and a big thank you to our first people that we interviewed, to
All of
Michael
them.
Walton, to Memo Rodriguez, to
Kristen Burkhardt, to Ian Underwood, Sarah Meany, Jacqueline Boys,
yes.
But anyway, people, thank you so much. Another 100 coming through.
Thank you.